You have been doing everything right. That is the part that makes this so infuriating. 3 years of fertilizing on schedule, spring nitrogen applications, slow-release summer granules, fall winterizer treatments, every bag followed to the letter, every recommended rate applied with the kind of obsessive precision that most homeowners never bother with. You have spent close to $300 on lawn fertilizer over the past 2 years alone, not counting the time, not counting the early Saturday mornings dragging a spreader across wet grass before the heat sets in. And after all of that, your lawn still looks wrong. Not dead, not destroyed, but wrong in a way that is hard to explain to someone who has not stood in their own yard and stared at it. Dull, flat, a kind of washed-out yellowish green that refuses to deepen no matter what you put down. 2 streets over, some guy who you are fairly certain does not spend half the time on his lawn that you do, has grass that looks like a golf course. Dark, saturated, almost blue-green in the right light. You have tried to figure out what he is doing differently. You have wondered if it is the sprinkler system, the grass variety, maybe just better soil under his yard than yours. Here is what nobody told you, and this is the part that should make you genuinely angry when you hear it. You probably do not have a nitrogen problem. You have a magnesium problem. And the fix costs $2 at Walmart. The lawn fertilizer market in the United States generates over $12 billion every year. $12 billion. That is not a typo. That is not an exaggeration. That is the documented annual revenue of an industry built almost entirely around 3 letters that appear on every single bag of fertilizer ever sold at a hardware store. NPK. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium.
Those 3 nutrients are the foundation of every lawn care product on the shelf. Every Scott's formula, every Pennington program, every Vigoro bag stacked high near the garden center entrance from March through August. The entire marketing apparatus of the lawn care industry is built around convincing you that NPK is all you need to think about. The bag tells you how much nitrogen is in it. The bag tells you the phosphorus ratio. The bag shows you a photograph of an impossibly green lawn and implies very strongly that this is what you get when you follow the instructions inside. Here is what is not on those bags. Magnesium, not a mention, not a footnote, not a single line on the guaranteed analysis panel about the one mineral that sits at the literal center of the process that makes grass green. And the reason magnesium is not on those bags has nothing to do with science and everything to do with economics. There is no profit margin in telling an American homeowner to walk past the garden center entirely, go straight to the health and beauty aisle, and pick up a $2 bag of something that has been sitting on pharmacy shelves for over a century. Epsom salt, magnesium sulfate, a mineral compound documented in university extension research, used in professional turf management, studied in soil science literature going back decades. Not a secret, not some underground gardening hack, not a trick that only master gardeners know. Just a product with no advertising budget, no green lawn on the packaging, and no financial incentive for anyone in the $12 billion fertilizer industry to mention it. The information has been publicly available in university extension bulletins for as long as most homeowners have been alive. Soil scientists have published peer-reviewed research on the role of magnesium in turfgrass health. Professional sports field managers and golf course superintendents factor magnesium into their maintenance programs as a standard practice. But between that body of professional knowledge and the homeowner standing in the fertilizer aisle trying to figure out why his lawn looks terrible, there is a gap the size of the industry itself. Because the industry does not fill that gap, the industry sells you another bag of NPK and lets you keep wondering. What follows in this video is the information you should have been given the first time you bought a bag of fertilizer. The science of what is actually happening inside a yellow blade of grass. How to read your own lawn to determine whether magnesium is your specific problem, exactly what to buy and where to find it, how to apply it correctly, and what to realistically expect when you do. By the time you finish watching, you will understand your lawn at a level that most homeowners never reach, and you will be able to fix a problem that has probably been costing you money for years without ever appearing on a single product label.
Every blade of grass in your lawn is green for one reason and one reason only: a molecule called chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is not just the pigment that gives plants their color, it is the engine of photosynthesis, the biological process by which your grass captures energy from sunlight and converts it into everything the plant needs to grow, stay dense, resist drought, and maintain the deep, saturated color that separates a great lawn from a mediocre one. Photosynthesis is the foundation. Everything else, the nitrogen applications, the watering schedule, the aeration, the overseeding, all of it is secondary to the plant's ability to run photosynthesis efficiently. And at the absolute center of every single chlorophyll molecule in every single blade of grass in your lawn is one atom of magnesium. Not nitrogen, not phosphorus, magnesium. The chlorophyll molecule has a specific ring-shaped structure called a porphyrin ring, and in the middle of that ring sits a single magnesium ion that holds the entire molecule together and allows it to absorb light. Without that magnesium atom correctly positioned at the center of the structure, the chlorophyll molecule cannot form properly. It cannot absorb sunlight efficiently. It cannot drive photosynthesis at full capacity. And when photosynthesis slows down, the grass begins to lose its color from the inside out, starting with the tissue between the leaf veins, spreading outward, producing exactly the kind of dull, patchy, yellowish appearance that no amount of nitrogen is going to fix, because nitrogen is not the problem. The University of Maryland Cooperative Extension has documented this relationship clearly in published research. Magnesium deficiency directly impairs chlorophyll synthesis, and the visual result is grass that appears pale, washed out, or yellow, even in lawns receiving regular fertilization. This is the piece that most homeowners never understand, and it is the piece that explains why some lawns never seem to respond to fertilizer the way they should. The nitrogen is there, the phosphorus is there, the potassium is there, but the molecular engine that runs on all of those inputs, the chlorophyll system that converts fertilizer investment into actual visible greenness, is running without the one structural component it cannot function without. You are putting fuel into an engine with a missing part and wondering why the car will not accelerate. Magnesium deficiency is, according to soil science literature, one of the most common nutrient problems in residential lawns in the United States, and simultaneously one of the least diagnosed, precisely because it never appears on a fertilizer label and nobody in the retail lawn care chain has any incentive to tell you about it. The reason magnesium deficiency is so widespread comes down to a combination of factors that affect the majority of American lawns simultaneously. First, magnesium is a highly soluble mineral. It dissolves in water and moves through soil easily, which sounds beneficial until you understand what that means in practice. Every time it rains heavily, every time you run your irrigation system, the dissolved magnesium in your soil moves downward through the soil profile and eventually leaches out below the root zone entirely. Unlike phosphorus, which binds tightly to soil particles, magnesium keeps moving with water until it is simply gone.
If you live in a region with sandy soil, which describes enormous stretches of the American South, the Southeast, and the coastal states, this process is dramatically accelerated because sandy soil holds very little water and very few minerals to begin with. Rain moves through it fast, and it takes dissolved magnesium with it at a rate that clay-heavy soils would never experience. Then add the fertilizer problem on top of that. Standard lawn fertilizers replace nitrogen, because nitrogen depletes quickly and visibly affects growth. They replace phosphorus and potassium. They do not replace magnesium because magnesium is not part of the NPK formula and never appears on the guaranteed analysis panel. So the cycle compounds itself. Every season you fertilize, the nitrogen goes in, the magnesium keeps washing out, the deficit in your soil grows incrementally larger, and the lawn slowly loses the capacity to convert all of that expensive fertilizer into the deep green color you are paying for. Years of doing everything right, and the one thing the industry never told you to replace is the one thing that was slowly disappearing from your soil the entire time. Before you spend a single dollar on a solution, you need to determine with reasonable confidence whether magnesium deficiency is actually the problem you're dealing with. Not every yellow or dull lawn has a magnesium problem, and applying a solution to the wrong problem is a waste of time even when that solution costs $2. Magnesium deficiency has a specific visual signature documented in turfgrass research that is distinct enough from other common lawn problems to allow a reasonably accurate field diagnosis without laboratory equipment.
Learning to read these signs is the difference between solving the problem and spending another season guessing. The first and most diagnostic visual sign is called interveinal chlorosis. The technical definition is yellowing of leaf tissue between the veins while the veins themselves remain comparatively greener. On a grass blade, this manifests as the center of the blade fading toward yellow or pale green, while the very edges retain slightly more color. The overall visual effect across a lawn is a streaked or patterned yellowing rather than a uniform fade. This is critically different from nitrogen deficiency, which tends to produce a uniform pale green or yellow across the entire blade without the distinctive interveinal pattern. If your lawn looks generally pale everywhere equally, nitrogen is the more likely culprit. If the yellowing has texture to it, almost like the color has been pulled out in strips, that pattern is consistent with magnesium loss at the cellular level. The second sign is a reddish or purplish tint appearing in the grass, particularly noticeable in spring and fall when soil temperatures drop. Magnesium-deficient grass frequently develops anthocyanin pigments, the same compounds that make autumn leaves turn red, as a stress response when magnesium availability is insufficient to support normal chlorophyll production. If you notice a reddish cast to your lawn in cool weather that was not there during the previous summer, that is a flag worth taking seriously. The third sign, and the one that applies to the broadest category of frustrated homeowners, is a lawn that has been consistently and correctly fertilized according to label instructions, but still fails to achieve the color depth you expect. Nitrogen stimulates growth and produces a temporary greening response, but if the underlying chlorophyll system is limited by magnesium availability, that green response will be shallow and short-lived. The lawn greens slightly for 2 or 3 weeks, then fades again, and the cycle repeats. Here is where the situation gets actively worse for homeowners who do not understand the underlying biology. When a fertilized lawn fails to hold its green color, the instinctive response is to apply more nitrogen. The bag says it makes grass green. The grass is not green, therefore more nitrogen seems logical. But excess nitrogen without sufficient magnesium creates a biochemical imbalance that compounds the deficiency. Nitrogen application drives rapid blade growth, and rapid blade growth demands more chlorophyll production, and chlorophyll production requires magnesium. If magnesium is already limited in the soil, pushing the plant to grow faster with additional nitrogen increases the demand for the one nutrient that is not there.
The plant exhausts its remaining magnesium reserves faster, the deficiency deepens, the green response to nitrogen becomes shorter and shallower, and the homeowner responds by applying even more nitrogen. It is a cycle that costs money at every turn and moves further from the actual solution with every application. The fourth diagnostic factor is environmental. Sandy soil, acidic soil with a pH below 6, and lawns receiving heavy irrigation year-round represent the highest risk profile for magnesium depletion. Acidic soils reduce the availability of magnesium at the root level even when it is present in the soil, because soil pH affects the chemical form in which nutrients exist and how readily roots can absorb them. Heavy irrigation compounds the leaching effect described earlier.
If your soil type, soil pH, and watering habits all align with this risk profile, and your lawn shows even 2 of the 3 visual signs above, you have a strong case for magnesium deficiency without needing a laboratory to confirm it. Walk into any Walmart in America, go straight through the store past the garden center, and find the health and beauty section. Between the bath products and the muscle soak items, you will find Epsom salt, store brand, typically $1.98 for a 2-pound bag. That is the product. That is the fix that has been sitting in the pharmacy aisle while the lawn care industry sold you $40 bags of branded fertilizer for years. Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate, chemical formula MgSO4, and the only thing you need to verify on the label is that those words appear somewhere on the packaging. Purity level does not matter for lawn application.
The garden-specific versions sold in garden centers are chemically identical to the pharmacy product and typically cost 3 to 4 times as much for the same compound. Do not pay for the packaging. Do not pay for the garden branding. The $2 bag does exactly what the $8 bag does because they are the same substance. One critical distinction before you buy anything. Epsom salt, table salt, rock salt, and water softener salt are completely different compounds that share only the word salt in common. Table salt is sodium chloride. Rock salt is sodium chloride. Water softener salt is sodium chloride or sodium-based compounds. Sodium is toxic to grass in any meaningful quantity and will damage or kill turf rather than improve it. The product you need is specifically magnesium sulfate. The bag will say Epsom salt or Epsom salts. It will list uses like bath soak or muscle relief. That is the right product. If it says anything about softening water or de-icing, put it back.
You also want to avoid any product labeled Epsom salt that lists added fragrances or colorants in significant quantities, as those additives serve no lawn care purpose and introduce unnecessary variables. There are 2 distinct application methods, and the right choice depends on your lawn size and how quickly you need results. The first method is foliar liquid application, and it is the faster-acting option for most homeowners. Mix 1 tablespoon of Epsom salt into 1 gallon of water. Stir the solution until the granules dissolve completely, which takes about 60 seconds at room temperature. Pour the solution into a pump sprayer or attach it to a hose end sprayer for larger coverage. Apply the solution evenly across the lawn surface, walking at a steady pace to avoid pooling in any one area. 1 gallon of solution covers approximately 100 square feet.
The dissolved magnesium absorbs through the grass blade surface directly, as well as into the soil through the root zone, which is why foliar application produces faster results than dry granule methods. For most homeowners, seeing the interveinal chlorosis pattern described earlier, liquid application at this rate once per month during the active growing season, typically April through September in most of the continental United States, is sufficient to correct the deficiency and maintain healthy magnesium levels through the season. The second method is dry broadcast application, appropriate for larger lawn areas where mixing and carrying gallons of solution becomes impractical. Apply dry Epsom salt at a rate of 1 pound per 1,000 square feet of lawn area. Use a broadcast spreader for even coverage across large areas, or distribute by hand for smaller patches. The critical step with dry application is immediate, thorough watering after spreading.
The water dissolves the granules and carries the dissolved magnesium into the soil and down to the root zone. Without that watering step, the granules sit on the surface ineffectively. Dry application absorbs more slowly than foliar spray. Expect 2 to 3 weeks before visible results, rather than the 7 to 14 days typical of liquid application. Both methods work. Liquid is faster. Dry is more practical at scale. Choose based on your situation, rather than on any quality difference between the methods. The quantity guidance above is not arbitrary and should not be exceeded on the assumption that more will work faster or better. Magnesium competes with calcium and potassium for absorption at the root level through the same transport pathways. If you apply significantly more magnesium than the root system needs, you suppress the uptake of calcium and potassium, potentially creating deficiencies in those minerals that replace the one you just fixed. The rates of 1 tablespoon per gallon for liquid and 1 pound per 1,000 square feet for dry represent the threshold at which you correct a deficiency without creating a competing imbalance. Apply once per month. That frequency is enough to steadily build magnesium availability through the growing season without overshooting. Here is the responsible thing that most lawn care content skips because it complicates the narrative. Not every lawn that looks dull and yellow has a magnesium problem. If your soil already contains adequate magnesium, applying Epsom salt will not damage anything, but it will also accomplish very little. You will be spending time and effort solving a problem that does not exist in your specific yard, while the actual deficiency, whether nitrogen, iron, pH imbalance, or compaction, continues unaddressed. The visual signs described earlier are indicators, not certainties.
The only way to know with precision what your soil actually contains and what it actually lacks is a soil test. Your local cooperative extension office, which operates in almost every county in the United States as part of the land-grant university system, offers soil testing services typically priced between $8 and $20 depending on the state and the depth of analysis requested. The process is straightforward. You collect small samples of soil from multiple locations across your lawn, combine them into a single sample, and mail the sample to the extension laboratory. Within 1 to 2 weeks, you receive a full nutrient profile covering nitrogen availability, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, sulfur, soil pH, and in many cases, organic matter content. That report tells you exactly which nutrients are deficient, which are adequate, and which are excessive in your specific soil.
It takes the guesswork out of every lawn care decision you make going forward, not just the magnesium question. For homeowners who have been applying the same fertilizer program for years without understanding what their soil actually contains, a $12 soil test is frequently the most valuable $12 they will spend on their lawn all season. If your soil test returns low magnesium, Epsom salt is exactly the right tool, applied exactly as described. If magnesium comes back normal and the problem lies elsewhere, you redirect your attention and your money toward what actually matters. Either way, you have real information instead of a guess, and real information is what the fertilizer industry has been selling you expensive substitutes for since the first bag of NPK fertilizer appeared on a hardware store shelf. Here is the timeline you can expect when magnesium deficiency is genuinely present and you begin correcting it with liquid application.
During the first 7 days following application, you will see no visible change in the lawn. This is not a sign that the treatment is failing. The magnesium is being absorbed through the leaf surface and root system and is integrating into the plant's biochemical processes at the cellular level. Chlorophyll molecules are beginning to form more completely as magnesium becomes available to occupy the center of the porphyrin ring structure. The change is happening at a scale you cannot see with the naked eye yet. Between days 7 and 14, with liquid application, a shift in color depth becomes visible in areas that were most severely affected. The dull or yellowish sections begin to take on more saturation. The overall lawn does not look different so much as it looks more fully itself, as though the color that was always supposed to be there is finally arriving. By weeks 3 and 4, color improvement is clear enough to photograph. Patches that were noticeably lighter than the surrounding lawn begin to blend into a more uniform depth. Growth rate may increase slightly as the plant can now use the nitrogen already present in the soil more efficiently, because chlorophyll is functioning at full capacity and photosynthesis is producing more energy to support growth. By the second monthly application, the lawn should be holding a consistent deeper green throughout the growing season, without the repeated fading cycle that characterized the years of inadequate magnesium. The total cost for a full growing season of treatment on a typical residential lawn runs under $4. Not $4 per month, $4 for the entire season from April through September. That is the scale of the gap between what the fertilizer industry charges for incomplete solutions and what an informed homeowner can accomplish with a product that has been sitting in the pharmacy aisle the entire time.
The larger point of this video is not simply that Epsom salt is a useful lawn care tool, though it is. The larger point is about what the fertilizer industry has optimized for over the decades since NPK became the standard framework for consumer lawn care. An industry generating $12 billion annually has every incentive to define the problem in terms of the solutions it sells, and no incentive whatsoever to mention nutrients that fall outside that framework. Magnesium, sulfur, calcium, iron, all of them play documented roles in how grass grows, how it looks, and how efficiently it uses the nitrogen and phosphorus you apply. None of them appear prominently in mainstream lawn care advice because none of them require you to purchase a $40 bag of branded product. The research exists. The university extension documents exist. Professional turf managers use this information as a matter of course. It has simply never been in the financial interest of the industry to translate that knowledge into the consumer space, where the money is made. You now have the information. You know what magnesium does at the molecular level inside a grass plant. You know how to read your own lawn for the specific visual pattern that indicates magnesium is the limiting factor. You know where to buy the solution, what to look for on the label, exactly how much to apply and how often, and what the timeline of results looks like when you are addressing the right problem. Run the checklist one more time. Sandy or acidic soil. Frequent or heavy irrigation. Interveinal yellowing with a streaked or patterned appearance. Regular fertilization producing diminishing or short-lived green response. If 3 or more of those apply to your situation, the $2 bag at Walmart is worth buying this week. Mix 1 tablespoon per gallon of water. Apply it across the lawn.
And get a soil test through your county extension office so you know exactly what you are working with going forward. The test costs $12. The information it returns is worth far more than anything printed on the back of a fertilizer bag. If this video saved you money, changed how you think about your lawn, or helped you finally understand why the fertilizer was not working, hit the like button right now. Leave a comment below telling me what your lawn situation looks like, what state you are in, what grass type you are dealing with, because that context helps me make better videos for exactly your situation. And subscribe if you want to keep getting lawn care information built on soil science and university research instead of fertilizer industry marketing. Every video on this channel is designed to close the gap between what the professionals know and what the homeowner standing in the fertilizer aisle actually gets told. Subscribe and you will not miss any of it.